Investors, landlords, don't cancel me, but I have got to break this myth you keep propagating. The myth is that it takes months and thousands of dollars to evict a tenant. It's just not true. I'm Jen, a real estate investment educator, advocate, and broker at One Focus Property Management. For the record, I am talking about Central Pennsylvania. So when I talk about times and fees and processes, I'm talking about evicting in Central Pennsylvania. If I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times. You're better off working with the tenant. You're better off not going to an attorney or not engaging in the enforcement of your lease through the court system because it's just so time consuming and costly. I'm not exactly sure what those investors are talking about because for my clients, I'm executing evictions within 6 weeks of the delinquency. So if on May 1st, I didn't have the rent in full and didn't receive any rent, by mid-June, that tenant would be evicted and the client would have possession of the property back. In order to accomplish that, there's 2 filings and 2 court actions. The landlord-tenant complaint, which costs between $150 and $200 usually, and will result in a hearing where the judge will give you the judgment. After the appeal period, you've got to file the order of possession, another $150 to $200, and then the judge must order for the constable to set and execute the eviction. Now, for the record, I don't think landlords are out there purposefully lying. They're not trying to deceive others. They truly believe this to be the case. Often they're secondhand reporting what people have told them, but for many people, they have had this exact experience. It's taken months and it's been very costly. So why am I telling you one thing and they're telling you another? Well, the truth is, it's not the eviction process that takes a long time. It's the typical investor's process. See, most people get that call when the rent is due about the rent needing to be late by a couple of weeks, and they accept it. They accept it and they feel good about the grace that they're offering. But if that payment isn't made as promised, it's a real issue. And most investors, most landlords are not holding their tenants' feet to the fire, applying late fees, and being extra critical of when they receive rent, which is a fine business practice, by the way. You get to choose how you do this. However, what ends up happening is if you're not disciplined in the collection of your rent, those delinquencies can grow. So what'll happen is you'll mess around trying to talk about it or figure it out or work out a solution for the first 2 or 3 months. And then resentment will set in. And then you'll finally, as the investor, decide to do what you need to do to pursue an eviction. Often, because the investor is inexperienced, their evictions won't go so quickly as mine do in 6 weeks. They'll make a mistake, they'll have an error in timing, and that could result in it taking longer. So if the average investor is taking between 3 and 4 months worth of delinquency to decide to take action, and then taking another 2 to 3 months through the eviction process due to inexperience and mistakes, that is how they're coming up with these horror stories. So here's the great news. You're not actually subject to it taking a long time. You can hire an expert property manager like One Focus Property Management who's never going to let it get delinquent. Or you can consistently apply the terms of your lease just like a manager would. You can be disciplined and on top of it every single month. Those are really your options to manage that risk and make sure you keep your collections in check. I so prefer to help people learn how to manage risk better than just getting mad about it and complaining about it. And it's really a pet peeve of mine when I see investors propagate these myths. In Central Pennsylvania, it's taking 6 weeks and about $400 in court costs. Tell me where you are and what is the time frame and the cost of doing an eviction where you live.